All right, so I've been taking a look at it, and it's right for the moment. This is what I stabbed at it. Okay, so it's just got. I changed out the order a little bit because I think it's a little easier on the face of the equation from a set data. Here I'm prepping end of 24, or yeah, the end of 24 into the start of 25, so end 24, 25, start is when I would have to start this December, go about this exercise. Tooth to tail, United States Census data, you can hit that anywhere at all points in time. This isn't moving fast. So there's that going for you. But your field audits are a little bit different. You have your commercial businesses and you have your residential. The barns, and I use that in reference to some probability index and last resort, knocking on doors like a whole, was it evangelist? Was it Mormon or something? I don't remember. At any rate, you can see I gave you an example. The United States Census. You're going to want to write that down. Yes, it's good to have it. Clip it out. Get these charts and what have you because they are clearly super fucking important. Um, and be understanding about the Warhammer game we're going to play. Now, again, you see here total households. Now, that might be on the index of what you don't know about the residential properties and where they might be scattered about here. So that seems like why you want to start with your general censuses in terms of what they reference for field audits, which becomes a node. A population, housing unit is ages. The education on that is generally the older you go, but it's got some set theory numbers to it. The employment is a follow along chart along with that about what P is, or, well, what is it, AR, S1. So HR, P1, the big three into the AR backyard one. So that's going to get you back to education and employment. And I called it out realistically full time, 40K. Those 40 hours or what you're doing inside here, what that algorithm does, which is United States Census. This is what they said about us. So we got to take in consideration where the American Community Survey 5-year estimate is and realistically what they're gauging out of. And I would love to see a black body population factor about year over year. That would have made this a lot easier census instead of trying to having to go through here or try to figure out what chart that is. You can get the 10 or 2010, but again, from 1,000 people to 900, and where they're saying some other charts are about 2,000, or whatever that is. I got to take at least one source science into consideration before I bounce around too much. Now, example 2 is the back propagation of the school. Now, that's something inside of here because I'm local, I would just generally know. And again, how you ask about doing that can be phone calls. I am just looking for the elementary's grade to grade, age, and gender ratio because obviously I have to take a look at all this about up until here. So that's 4 pretty important standards, especially when 2 of those are zeros in this standpoint. Yeah, I'm just curious more than anything about some stuff in the back propagation of the school K through 12 or K through 5 because that's going to get you your, what is it, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year old, just before 13 or something like that. So somewhere's in here, the ankle breaker that it is. When we're doing the grade and the ages, because again, very more important number than me asking who's your parents just yet, right? And I got to get that sex down. Your age and a gender by units is an important number as well, as long as it's in the proper right mix and ratio for what it does, because that's going to be fun dealing with it later in life as if they choose to stay here, and they most definitely will for at least a few more seasons. Grade age, parent status. Now again, that's not something from the phone call you're necessarily going to get, but as a population number, it can be important. I'm not necessarily digging up single family information. Again, I'm just looking for a status, and I would love to get those names about who is the cross reference from any business in the school. if you know my other audits, you do have a post office, or excuse me, commercial standard is police station, village office, yes, the Circle E, yes, the Valeros and Bat Factory and Bass's Cabins, the golf course. Their population probably serves some crossover. If it came up with the parents and it came up as a business or a reference owner, employee, any which way about that, how many girls or boys are inside there, their gender and ages, just so it fills off that section a little better, and any kind of local lineage that I can get a hold of as far as out to pasture mailboxes. Then we can go to the post office. Now, my other notation here is the bank, but I think generally the post office, which serves right to those two nodes, is more important than a bank or an office building in that form, because this serves the NP, right? More about the numbers and the positions and what's kind of a radial fluffy on everything else that's inside of here. Because I am sure, given those two nodes alone, against school system and any entropies on the board, given now this chessboard's configuration, that there would be at least one node within most of these. And again, the residential properties that serve what it is when you do that. Bunch of dots because Feynman dot, right? This just kind of winds up being a lensed problem, standard candles and other issues, especially when you get into that issue right there. Now, when you're starting to widen this out, and again, if you can see some of my other notations just real quickly here being, do you go do another town now? Do you put the surrounding aspects around it? Or do you scale back out to county? Now, in this book, I actually started with the world globe. I'll put it to a world map with time zones, United States and all the states, districts as far as New York, the main road, because again, with all the districts and roads and the way they combined, when you take that down to an individual district or the county, that county is going to serve potentially multiple, at least in this case, towns or hamlets. The incumbent idea to Binghamton in that notation as a potential node that teaches you some of the differences or how to allot. Big Bang universe, yeah, there's some supermassive black holes, there's some regular black holes, but still that ring of where they kind of push that interference pushes through. So yeah, Milk Dramata is going to be mainly Milk Dramata, and Hancock's mainly Cadosha for what it serves, and Fish's Eddy and some other things. But right as far as on the county and the state, we're right on Pennsylvania. So the rules aren't just necessarily something I can stay, I'm talking like right on the board. But in itself, we're up in the quadrant of the figure 4 of the United States, where it's like, all right, well, Pennsylvania and New York are basically the same thing. And, well, let me see if we can just dig it up, because I actually have it in here. Yeah. So again, when you're getting to the larger figure 4 of the section or individual counties, you can see how that population tower differs, or what would come in for an emission or absorption given that standard if we can stay with this year 0. Now, here's a little fun thing I was playing with. If we're in this town with these kinds of populations, then I need a day 0 guy. I need that 24 into 25. And yeah, the 10-year census is not going to line up unless you N1 half it. Now, that's important notation about me year 0ing that out and actually allowing somebody else to recreate my experiment by walking that for certain census data. And again, there's the First Amendment audit variance on that, and then there is the other variance on that, or prime into this, that says, I'm a cop, I want to know the numbers. I can basically get it. Let's be nice about what I can't not know, or some variables inside of here, at least for the population standard. And I don't think this is really much. I mean, we got a lot of trustees doing stuff on one side of it in different forms of what you could do, trustees, what volunteers, how you catch a nonprofit at $42K, an annual, or $45, and again, not have that come down next year or following years when somebody comes to lay in on that, especially when I go to work and joules this out later about what that census job would be. See, again, year zero, I'm kind of looking for something like that while I'm programming in something that almost competes with at least the structure of something like this that may become that standard, at least to a city district. Now, again, Bell Computer, Ben Eaters, breadboard, and a NVIDIA chip gives us gravity. And so it works atomic and well, NVIDIA would be the other one there in terms of the gravity of the situation. But at any rate, the apprentice can do it next year. I would follow it up with them because that would make me biannual. And then I would replace it. See, you replace that new kid when they do it alone the next year, because year zero, somebody else does it. I do it with them because I'm doing a biannual off of their second, but mine would be like I ran it 2 years. I let somebody else run it, which I obviously could. If you're a zero guy, you're going to run through that. But just for fundamentals, hydrogen gambit, play with me here. You let that kid go, because then you get the triple. You get the third year, which is the first year where you're modeling those, where that starts to build out to 5 years. So you don't want to just have weird metrics like that. Year zero, new kid, me and the new kid. That original new kid. A new me, that kid, or something like that, and you walk that out, and it gives you 9 or 10 different people inside of there over 10 years. And you got to stay with that as an annual census. Now, it would be much better to start it with something with a 0 or a 5 at it, just for that variance of it, because you're always running those little loopy factors in the string gravity, and the farther that runs out, more dark matter and dark energy that's pushing against to slow it down against how far it could stretch or does stretch, or again, between the twixt of things, that really lends it out. Anything else in here? Yeah, again, I want to talk about some working joules on that 40. It would be roughly 40K just by OT and $15 an hour standard stuff. 15 at 10-hour days straight off the base. You could easily be running that anyways. The only advantage here is that it's OT after 40, with the nature that it's you're always paid for the rainy days, not the sunny days, right? Because if you're paid straight time across the board, summer, winter, whether it's sleet, hail, 15, 18, 1750, what is it? 20, 22, 50, 25, before you really start jumping around in that later end, because $20 an hour at 40 hours a week is, I don't know, like 40 or 50K, so that's way up there. And you got to expect everybody coming. Wagner's, that when you're doing that civil audit, that's the same thing like asking the school stuff, because they're, it could be nobody ever, it's not couth to talk about your stubs or who you vote for or shit like that. And that's why. And the same reason it's like, Democrats, and therefore you get a raise. Apparently not. And if I told them, they kicked it in. I got a haircut like that because you're Jewish or Catholic, well, then, you kind of see a lot of hypocrisy in the wave function to just bullshit. And again, that's something you got to stay with.